right, we have started recording, and the floor is yours, or the screen is yours, I may say.
Thanks, Joe. I appreciate it. And thanks so much for inviting me to come speak to your group, your clientele, about the MNship application. I'm grateful to the Minnesota History Center for all of the work that they do there, and especially this department for being such great partners in preservation. So my name is Ginny Way. I am the National Register Architectural Historian at the State Historic Preservation Office at the Department of Administration. It's a lot of words, but I enjoy it. I'm here today to talk to you about the Minnesota Statewide Historic Inventory Portal, which is a new application, online application that our office has developed in order to help facilitate our work as well as yours, hopefully, with regard to resources in the state of Minnesota. A few things to get started with before we even get into this. I don't know how to work Google Meets, so Joe is monitoring hands and chat. We will sort of save the questions. I have a short PowerPoint if we can save questions about the PowerPoint till after, and then I think we can make it a lot less formal and a lot more casual during the live demonstration. If you just want to, shout out your question, that would be fine, but I'm not sure that I can see you raise your hand. So I am going to share my screen, and just to, oops, I raised my hand. See, this is how good I am. I am going to share my screen, and we are going to start with a very brief slide presentation. So we are going to talk today about the Minnesota Statewide Historic Inventory Portal. As I said, it's MNship for short. It is an inventory portal, an online application that is geared to standing structures. So this is not where you're going to find archaeological information. So I just want to start with that. It has only public information, so no restricted documentation is available via this website application. Let me see if I can figure out now how to forward. Oh, good. So just a little bit about the State Historic Preservation Office. We were developed in 1969. We used to be at the Minnesota Historical Society about 5 years ago. We were transferred to the Department of Administration. State Historic Preservation Offices generally were established by the National Historic Preservation Act of 1966. It provided a network of offices in every state to spearhead preservation initiatives within those states. About 20 years later, we also got tribal historic preservation offices. Our enabling legislation comes from that national act. We are largely funded by, although matched by state funding, largely funded by the federal government to do work related to federal undertakings. One of those pieces is the National Register of Historic Places, which many of you I'm sure are familiar with. Other things that come from that act are things like the environmental review process, if you have ever done state or federal review with our office. And the third major thing that we do is we maintain a statewide inventory. So that's a regulatory obligation that we undertake. So just so you know a little bit about what our office does, these are some statistics from federal fiscal year 23. We did just over 3,000 environmental review projects. We processed 174 tax credit applications. We reviewed 32 preservation planning documents. That includes certified local government grants, legacy amendment grants, as well as a myriad of other preservation planning documents that come into our office, including historic structures reports, historic landscape reports, context evaluations, survey, and things like that. And we also listed 15 new properties on the National Register. So I only tell you this so that you can sort of understand that the breadth of the work that we do. So there are 15 of us, and we do a lot of paper, or what used to be paper. Now we can do it digitally. So within the inventory itself, so through all of those programs, every time someone surveys a property for any reason, they will create an inventory form. Those inventory forms used to be stored in our office. This is now an application for you to access those. Just so that you understand the statistics, we have just over 116,000 properties inventoried in the state of Minnesota. As part of this MNship application, we also scanned 78,000 legal files. So all of the paperwork that you used to see in our office is now available through this application. At this point, we have roughly 200 credentialed users. That is not the level of activity that is necessary for most people. Most people can use this application via the public map, which is what I'll demonstrate today. Credentialed users are those people that need to upload new inventory forms per federal regulation. And we add about 3,000 new properties per year to the inventory. So about 70% of our properties within the inventory are what we call unevaluated. So they were surveyed for some reason. There was no reason to undertake an evaluation. And so it's simply information that they exist on the landscape. About 8% are listed, 6% are eligible for listing but are not actually listed. And then we have about 16% of those properties that have been determined to be not eligible for listing. So those, the eligible, not eligible, and listed have regulatory implications, which is why those are pieces of information that we track beyond just general interest. So in order to support the MNship application, we have redeveloped our entire website. These are just for your information. So the MNship application does have a page on our website where you can access the application as well as learn a little bit about what it holds and what it doesn't, how it corresponds and works with the Office of the State Archaeologist if you were doing, actual review. Also on our website are the user guide and, again, a link to the application, as well as we have a YouTube channel that has some guided demonstrations related to specific functions. Not all of them are covered clearly, but if you go there and you see something that's useful, great. If you see something that you'd love to see, please let us know because we're always happy to add to those. So the user guide is really in depth. We intentionally made this sort of more information than any one person wants to have so that there's transparency in our entire process. What you will be able to do is determine what it is you're interested in doing and go to that, and you will see very explicit instructions down to like click here and right click there in order to produce the functionality that you want to. We don't mind phone calls, clearly. We actually really love them, but the goal of this is that you should be able to use this application and work through it in order to find your resource on your own time and at your own leisure. So things that are still going on in our office, we are continually doing data cleanup. We are also creating additional help videos. We are doing trainings like this with members of the public, agency and consultant trainings specifically. We are mapping properties that didn't have geometry. If y'all are familiar with our inventory at all, you know that there are inventory forms from the early 80s that say that a building is located at the corner of Main Street and First Avenue in a town, and that intersection doesn't exist anymore, or it's XXX, 307th Street, and that's not particularly helpful either. So we are manually going through and trying to find those locations when it's possible. We are generalizing restricted geometry, meaning that if there's anything in our files that isn't publicly available, we're trying to make sure at least it is flagged somewhere in MNship so that you can move forward with your research or reviews or whatever it is you need to do by contacting our office. And then one of the things that's not currently in MNship, but where we're really working to get towards MNship, is the actual reports. Anything that's not officially associated with a single resource, but is associated with an environmental review project or context development, those are not yet available through the application. They are available digitally, and you will see once we go through the forms that you have the information that you can give us, and then we can give you a copy of that. So we're working really hard to make sure that all these things are available to you online. Again, our next step is we're going to revise our architecture and history survey manual. If you do any survey in your communities, that still doesn't reference MNship, so we're working on that. We are looking at greater coordination with the OSA portal. One of the things I'm really interested in is getting uploaded, meaning clean nominations to the National Register. So if you're familiar with our files, our National Register files have the listing documentation as well as any number of other notes and things. So I'm trying to get clean nominations up so that it's a quick glance at what the National Park Service actually worked on. And we are trying to integrate Part 1 applications, which have previously been held in the tax credit files, but we're trying to get that information to you quickly. I'm going to do a demonstration, which is going to require me to think a little bit through how to share my screen again, so give me a minute with that. In the meantime, if you want to write down the MNship help, so it's menshiphelp.adm@state.mn.us. That is how you get in touch with us about anything you find in MNship, whether you need a correction, whether there's data missing, whether there's, something that you believe is incorrect. All of these things. If a geometry is in the wrong place and we need to move it, like the data in MNship and any other repository ever is only as good as what you give it. So garbage in, garbage out. And we have 50 years of really good data and we have 50 years of really bad data. So we are always looking to clean it. So never feel like you're bugging us if you just want to shoot us an email and let us know that something is wrong, something is missing, whatever. We were happy to accommodate that. So I'm going to try to get out of my PowerPoint presentation and we will move to... All right, so we are going to go to MNship, which I have marked. Can you see that, or are you still seeing?
I'm still seeing the presentation. Excuse me, the presentation.
The presentation. Slide. Okay, yeah. I'm going to stop presenting and I will start again. It did window, but maybe it just doesn't. It's not liking me today.
There you go. Now I'm seeing.
Perfect. Okay, so when you go to the menship.gisdata.mn.gov, you will see this public map button. That's the way to access our public map. You're going to open it. It is going to think a while because it's got a lot going on. Probably longer than I want it to. Yeah. So here's the state of Minnesota. MNship does not hold any buildings, sites, structures, objects, anything outside of the state of Minnesota. This has come as a surprise to people, but it is true. So if you're looking for something in Wisconsin, you will not find it here. We have designed this portal so that it is hopefully fairly user-friendly, but also it can do 90% of the research that you want it to do at your fingertips in your pajamas if you choose to. So we're going to run through just a little bit of the functionality today, and if you have any specific questions, again, feel free to shout them out. One of the best things that we have about it is that this little address bar, so this works just like Google. So I'm going to type in an address. So I'm going to type in 376 Fifth Avenue West in Winona. And that is going to zoom to, just like in Google, that address reserve. So here's that address. It will also work if you do a well-known place. So also in this location is Wyndham Park, Winona. Gotta spell it right. So there it is. It's going to zoom. Wyndham Park. So this allows you to find properties that maybe previously in our inventory their addresses are incorrect, or you really are not exactly sure what the address is. You can get close and then you can zoom around. A couple of things you'll notice right off the bat is that there are lots of pretty colors here. So the colors illustrate the eligibility of the property. So anything green is listed or eligible according to the SHPO data. So the polygon you see here is a district. Polygons tend to be districts. Points tend to be single buildings or properties. Lines or linear properties. This district is listed. The one in red is not. The same is true for the points. This building is outside the district and therefore not listed. This building is inside the district and therefore listed. You will notice as I click on these different resources, the resource turns teal if I am looking at the data related to it. So in the instance that there is a dot on top of a district, You will notice that there are one of two. So think about your mouse as going through a number of layers of maps, right? So this first box talks about the Wyndham Park Residential Historic District. You can tell because it is highlighted in teal. Your second is just the building itself. So this is the Hugh and Sadie Yomana house. So that is, this information is related to that house individually. You will also, like many other GIS programs, you have maps and layers. So you can turn your base maps any color you want. We are finding as the application rolls out that many people are giving us back our base maps. They do a screen grab, which is great to show the location of the property. I happen to like hybrid imagery for my research work, but the world navigation map is cleanest as we're just putzing around. You can also turn on and off all the other points, lines, and polygons if you find them to be distracting. We also have a series of reference layers, the State Historic Site Network, State Register Historic Places, historic aerials, on and on. So those are not created by us, but they live in our space, so they're used as reference points. So, I mean, that's just fun, right? So for the first time in the history of the Minnesota SHPO, you have all of this information graphically available to you. And through this map website, you can zoom in on a property. When you click on it, as we talked about before, you will see a box that talks about the property that's just the basic information. Here we have the historic inventory number, which is the unique identifier that the State Historic Preservation assigns every resource, whether it's a resource meaning a district or resource an individual building. Anything with a geometry will have a unique identifier in the form of an inventory number. Property name, address, property type. From here, you will be able to do a view form. So if I click on this, the information, the data we have on the property is available. So here you have all the same base layers and reference layers that you had before. In this instance, the other MNship features are turned off so that you can very clearly understand which property you're in. I'm going to scroll down a little bit. We have, as you can see, general information, again, the historic name, if it was part of an ERP agency project, if it has undergone a tax credit, if it has been part of a legacy grant program for whatever reason, historic function, design professional, architectural style, dates constructed. One of the amazing things that we have now is, again, I told you we had those 78,000 scans. Those are now uploaded. So you can click on the scan, it will download and then open. Hopefully, can you see that? Probably didn't. Hold on just
No, we can't.
I have to refresh it for some reason. It's not when I share the screen, it doesn't like it if it starts on a different screen.
Yeah, that's fine.
Here we go. So this, if you are familiar with the files in our office, this was everything that you used to see when you came in and looked through the file. These are our legacy files. It is every piece of information we could scan. It doesn't have, of course, it doesn't have overly large things. It doesn't have bound objects, and it doesn't have photographs that were negatives or slides. But everything else has been run through a scanner. It's got a tremendous amount of information, including, the thumbnails on the old things. So if you're doing research on an individual property, this is a great way to do it. We also have, for the first time, available to the general public. Well, that's not true. The first time available publicly are the eligibility determinations. This is a really big deal if you're wanting to go deeper. So eligibility determination, under SHPO review, we have eligibility determinations. This group of information that we only have one here are actual undertakings by other organizations. So the National Register of Historic Places, while we manage the whole program, the actual listing is done by the National Park Service. The state register, the actual listing is done by the legislature. Local designation is done at the local level. We are simply recording it here for your convenience. So you have the NIRIS reference number, the actual listing name, the date, and the contribution status, the contributing status of the property. That comes in very handy, especially if you're on like the Wyndham Park Historic District and you're looking at an individual building, you want to know all the circumstances that it might be listed under. All of those would be here. So if this property was individually listed, there would be a second line that talks about the individual, has the individual NIRIS number. This little thing right here is a quick reference guide. It actually just creates the color that we see. If the property, the evaluation as opposed to designation, these are in-house determinations, right? So if we have decided that this property is individually eligible, but it has not yet been listed, you will see an individual evaluation of eligible for the National Register and a date. This is information about a complex or district. So you'll notice that this particular building is in the listed Wyndham Park Historic District. It is also in an identified Broadway residential historic district that is currently unevaluated. So if you were working in Winona and you were interested in historic districts that have been identified but have not yet been evaluated, you would be able to find those on this website too. I'm not sure if it's as interesting for this audience, but we also are now recording all of the and making available all the environmental review projects that have been that have been undertaken. So you can't get any of the project information at this point, but you can get a project number if you need to contact us about that information. So that's, I feel like it's almost a little bit anticlimactic when I go over it in this way, but this is literally $1 million worth of work right here, and it's really, really exciting if you're in here doing what I do all day, and certainly I think what you do as well. So one of the things that I really think is cool that this application allows us to do that we have never been able to do before is some comparative analysis and research. So this is sort of the practical creme de la creme of this work. So at this point, we have mimicked the process that would have happened if you'd come into the office and you had known the historic name or the inventory number and you had found the piece of paper, right? So we've done all of that. Now we can do it at home, which is even better. What we have not ever been able to do is to do comparative analysis or to be able to locate those things easily and in a geospatial format. So for instance, if we were going to go to Stearns County, I have opened this widget. It's the third one down. It's the search inventory records. Remember, or please note that these records are and records. So the more limitations you create, the less results you get. So at this point, I want all the properties in MNship in Stearns County. This takes a second because it is large, but so it has jumped our map from Winona County to Stearns County. You can see that it has registered 2,733 properties within Stearns County. It is creating the tables, so you can choose to view the tables or not view the tables. So here we go. Matt, was that your question? I see your hand.
I saw the hand. I was going, I bet I know.
Okay, so I'll do this one more time. So the widget is the third one down on the map, and it looks. I think it's a flashlight, and it opens the search inventory records forms. These fields, again, these are the things that are searchable. I have typed in Stearns County and hit enter. What the map is showing me is, I don't know what this random one over in St. Paul is. We're gonna have to figure that out, but it's showing me that there are 2,733 results, and they are mapped here within the boundaries of Stearns County. We also have a table view of those things. You could turn that off if you wanted to, or toggle it on. A thing to note is that points, lines, and polygons are they're on different tabs. So When you look at your table selections, you are not going to see them all in one place. You will see them separately. On the map, you will see them all in one place. So here we see all the points, all the lines, and the polygons. So again, you can click on any one of these polygons. You can choose to view it individually. You can go to its form. Here you can sort by historic name. You can sort by municipality. You can sort by street address. If you know the municipality, of course, you can limit by that. I like that a county, to enter a municipality, you do not need a county, because sometimes we know the name of the municipality, but we don't know the county for some reason. All of those are available to you at all times. So here we've limited, and our table limits as well. So I'm going to go back to all of Stearns County real quick, because as I mentioned before, this functionality serves as an and search instead of an or search. So with 2,733 properties, if I also only want those properties that are listed in or eligible for the National Register, I click search, and that will limit our results. It's working on it, but it limits it to down from 2,000 to approximately 600 properties. So as you can see, as this thinks, you can also upload a polygon if you or someone in your office has that much tech savvy. I don't actually, but you can upload a polygon, and then you can only return features, meaning resources, points, lines, and polygons within the space drawn on the map or within the uploaded shapefile. So if you have, this is often used for project APEs, but if you have survey areas, or you're looking at sort of a mixture of your municipality and the municipality next to you, then that can be done as well. So here we have 306 point, lines, and polygons that were returned. Also over on the right, you can choose by architectural style. You can choose by design professional. So design professional includes architects, but it also includes artists, contractors, fabricators, almost any data that we have. Those are all listed alphabetically. There are thousands of them. We tried to go through and do data cleanup so that the same company wasn't listed twice with slightly different spellings, but again, thousands, and there's just one of me, so there are still mistakes. If you find them, please let me know. Historic function, we didn't include current function in this, but if you're looking for something that used to be a bank or was historically a school, you can search for just schools. So if you wanted all schools in Stearns County, you could do that. If you wanted all schools in the state of Minnesota, but only those that are listed in the National Register, you can do that. So it really helps with comparative analysis. So we recognize that the parameters we've put forth in our search inventory records, as well as those major headings that we've included in our table, do not constitute the entirety of the data that we have. So one of the features we have incorporated, is the ability to download this and export it into a CSV, so an Excel spreadsheet. So I'm going to stop presenting and represent so we can now see the Excel spreadsheet. Thank you for hanging in there with me. Okay. So it should be coming towards you. There it is. So now what you see, are those 300 properties that we had in our table. We now have all of the data related to them, right? So not just the address and the historic function in use, but also the current function in use, the primary exterior material, the dates constructed, all of the information that we have recorded about that property. And this becomes a really powerful search tool for comparative analysis, for any sort of researching function. So we can look at only domestic single dwellings. We can look at if you have specific PIN numbers for whatever reason, if you only want to do classical revival buildings that were constructed, after 1907, like now you can do very specific things. So I'm going to add a couple of major disclaimers. I'm going to stop sharing my screen so you can see my face, so you know that they're very, very, very serious with this. Again, data, garbage in, garbage out, right? So our data is only as good as the information we had. So never presume that this is all of the information available in the world, nor should you presume that it's correct if it looks weird to you. Like, we have done our best, and most of the people that create this data have done their best, but we're all human, things happen. So if you're looking at a property and you're like, that is not what it says it is, don't assume you're wrong. Let us know and we'll look into it, and we'll make sure that we can, we'll either say, nope, that used to be exactly what it says it is and it was demolished, and we just didn't have a record of that. Or we'll be like, yeah, you're right, that is a barn and not, I don't know, 1950s housing complex. So we want this to be a usable tool for everybody. So the more we know, the better we can make it. And I think that's all for me. I think I really kind of sped through that really fast. Sorry. Is there anything anybody wants to look at specifically? Any functionality? Any questions? Everybody loves it. This was the most perfect demonstration ever.
It was amazing. I guess I have one I'd like to ask is
Sure.
but of course I'm the IT guy, so of course I'm going to ask you an IT question.
Let's see how I do.
See if you can answer. It seems to the software and everything behind it seems like, again, it was spinning for a while. How is it as far as bandwidth? Someone who may have less bandwidth or have a kind of a low graphics card, have you seen anybody run into problems with that? Do you need a pretty good bandwidth or beefy processor to get that, to be able to?
We have not noticed it so far. So it's an Esri product.
Okay.
So it runs on my phone just fine from my house. So we have not noticed that there's a real problem. Of course, the more you ask it to do it once, the slower it is. If you're dragging around St. Paul, it loads very differently than if you're dragging around, rural Western Minnesota, simply because there's more data there. We have noticed an unfortunate lag in downloading large files. They're files in there that are 70 megabytes each, and that takes a little time, even here at the state, but it gets there. You just kind of have to wait a little bit. If you're out in rural Minnesota and you're noticing problems, please let us know. I am no IT professional and I have no idea how we could optimize that. I know that they've done their best, but we would certainly want to know it for future,
Yeah, it might be something to watch as far as how people use it in areas that have poor bandwidth. So.
And we are still here, and so are our paper files. So if you just love those, you can come on in. But they are not being updated. We are not printing digital information to add to our paper files at this point. So.
I remember the filing cabinets when they were at MNHS.
Oh, they're still here.
I think we still have the imprints on the floor.
That doesn't surprise me. They're still imprinted in my heart. I think I kind of blew through that really fast. Yeah. So really, my last time I did this took 45 minutes, so I clearly felt comfortable here. Or I talked way too fast. So I see Matt. Matt, what's up?
Yeah, how often is the data refreshed on that? Like,
it's live.
Properties. So some new inventory determination is made next week. It'll show up
immediately. So when so how the data submission process works is that a credentialed user, so that's again a very, very slim number of the people we expect to actually use the application, have credentialed user ability. So they actually enter the data directly into the application, and as soon as somebody at the state the SHPO office has reviewed it, we accept it and it becomes live. We have not noticed even a 12-hour lag, so we don't even have to wait for things to refresh, at the server level overnight or anything. The same is true for uploaded. Like, we're constantly scanning and uploading inventory, not old inventory forms. The legacy forms have been scanned, but as I get new nominations, so the nominations we listed at our last state review board, we've uploaded and they're immediately available.
Are there other questions? Everybody understood, so you did good. Well, thank you, Ginny. Appreciate that, and I appreciate everybody coming and being part of this and learning more about the software. And well, I think with that we'll end it unless there's a question. That sounds good.
Thanks, Joe. It was my pleasure. If y'all have any questions, please reach out.
Thank you.
Of course. Bye.